Okay, so this is a review of chapter 9 through 12, the end of the novel, just summing up the events and the important things to remember before your test. So in chapter 9, of course, Simon dies. The boys reject his truth about the beast. He comes down from the mountain with the truth about the dead soldier. The boys, in their frenzy, say that he is the beast. They rip him apart, beat him up, and the last image is of Simon's body being pulled out to sea. There's a beautiful passage where Golding, the author, kind of draws back and we see the whole planet and the turning of the planet and the movement of the oceans. And Simon is, of course, this tiny little speck in the vast universe that Golding presents. So he's a very small boy and he is pulled out to sea. It's a beautiful yet really terrifying scene, and those are the hallmarks of Golding's style: horror mixed with beauty. So Simon is unable to tell the boys the truth, and from here the violence continues to escalate with Jack firmly in charge. Ralph no longer has any authority. Chapters 10 and 11. Ralph, as I said, has lost all authority by the time Simon dies. Piggy's glasses are stolen, and he still tries, Ralph still tries to reason with Jack by going to Jack and telling him he needs to give Piggy his glasses back. They have to concentrate on trying to get rescued. And of course, all along, Jack doesn't want to listen to any of that intelligence coming from Ralph. Ralph argues with Jack about returning Piggy's glasses. While they're having this conversation, Roger stands above, toying with pushing a giant boulder onto Piggy. They've been pushing boulders off of rocks kind of the whole time to goof off. So Roger now is taking that pointless violence a step further by using that action to hurt Piggy. Roger can no longer hide his urge for violence and cruelty. And of course, he eventually pushes the whole boulder over onto Piggy. When Roger does this, the boulder lands on Piggy's head, and when it strikes, he falls off of a cliff, smashing his head open on the rocks below. This is very symbolic because Piggy's brains literally have been solving problems for the entire time that they've been on this island. When they crash apart and his mind is broken, it symbolizes that all rationality and intelligence are gone. This happens just as the conch shell breaks apart. So the conch was a symbol for order, a symbol for civilization. Again, that's all shattered and broken apart. Jack takes Sam and Eric hostage, and Ralph runs away in terror. By chapter 12, Ralph is totally alone. He doesn't even have Piggy or Sam and Eric by his side. He can't convince Sam and Eric to run away with him because they're too afraid of being hurt by Jack and Roger. Sam and Eric reveal that Jack intends to hunt Ralph. They have sharpened a stick at both ends. That implies that their intention is to behead Ralph just as they beheaded the pig. We don't know if they ever would have gone through with such a violent action, but that's the implication here. Ralph can't attach meaning to this statement, and so he knows instinctively that it's horrifying, and he runs in terror, but he still really can't conceive that his friends, these fellow schoolboys, have gotten to such a point of violence. Ralph runs for his life. In the last few pages of the novel, Ralph hides in a small enclosure in the woods, similar to what Simon did before, except now he's not doing it out of peaceful contemplation. He's doing it to survive. When the other boys can't find him, they try to smoke him out by setting the island on fire. Again, this is quite ironic because setting fires is what Ralph has initially, wanted them to do, to keep a campfire going as a signal. Now the boys are using fire in a different way. Roger comes very close to catching Ralph. And as Ralph runs for his life, he stumbles toward the beach, The fire rages all around him as the boys have set it on fire, very similar to what they did at the beginning of the novel when the fire got out of control. And Ralph runs straight into a naval officer who has just arrived on the island, and he is saved. The perspective of the novel abruptly changes with the arrival of adults. We're suddenly reminded that the characters of this novel are young children. The naval officer believes that he is just looking at boys playing games like war. And for the entire novel, Ralph has been unable to keep a fire going. Now the boys have completely destroyed the island with an enormous fire, and that, ironically, is what brings the ship to them and gives them their rescue. The last image of the book is Ralph weeping while staring at the battleship. Now, that's a grim reminder of World War II and the violence that's been raging all around them. He weeps for his own loss of innocence and for the loss of his good friend, Piggy. Is there any hope at the end of this novel? Lord of the Flies takes a very dark view of humanity. We're drawn to violence, chaos, and cruelty as human beings. The Simons, Ralphs, and Piggies of the world face the terrors of those like Roger and Jack. And it seems in this book that the evil characters have a much greater chance of surviving and winning the fight against good versus evil than the poor Simons and Ralphs and Piggies of the world. However, Ralph is still young. He may very well grow up to be a good leader still. Perhaps now that he has seen evil, he will be able to fight against it as he grows older. So the novel has a complicated ending, not quite happy, not quite sad, but that doesn't mean that it's hopeless.